Hi there, welcome back to the YouTube channel. I'm back again. Going back in time, going back a long way back in time now, going back 10 years for today's Commander, for when it was first released, and I don't believe it's ever been reprinted at all at any time that I can remember. It's a bit of a different take. It's a deck that we see a lot of nowadays. It's a popular type, but I think with this Commander it makes it completely different. So, without further ado, we are looking at Krond the Dawn-Clad. Green, 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 white, white, white for a 6/6 flying vigilance legendary Archon, which is quite nice. But it has a nice ability. Whenever Krond the Dawn-Clad attacks, if it's enchanted, exile target permanent. Now, it's an enchantment deck. It's not, there's no other way around it. It's a green-white enchantment deck. We see a lot of green-white enchantment decks. We see them with different commanders. We see them all over the place, but this one is different. Well, I'm hoping it's different for the commander's sake more than anything else, because what we want to do is get the commander in play, get the commander enchanted, and then just start attacking with it as soon as possible so we can exile all the opponents, start exiling permanents that opponents control. Now with green and white, there's no extra combat steps that I can think of, so that makes it a little bit more challenging. So this is how the deck looks at the moment. As you can see, it's a very heavy enchantment deck. There's no lying about this. We need this to work. We need to be able to get Krond in played, get them enchanted, and then start attacking with it to win with it. Now, I've gone a little bit, it's probably gone a little bit light on lands here, because we're only playing 36, the usual selection of green white lands, forests, plains. I have included Emeria, the Sky Rune, because we're not playing that many creatures in deck, and getting our creatures in play is something that's important for this deck, hence why we've got Emeria in here. And I've made sure there's enough things that say this is a plains on it, like Arctic Tree Line and some of the other dual lands that I will figure, Canopy Vista, so on and so forth, that we can hit and make sure that we have enough plains in play. The other thing I will point out, where is it? Sun Petal Groves. There you go. Temple Gardens down here. And I've chucked in the Avamar Cradle of Growth just to make sure we do, we're running less basic forests just to make sure we can get it. The other thing that is worth pointing out is because this is an enchantment based deck, I am playing the Hall of Heliod's Generosity, just so we can get those enchantments from our graveyard back on top of our library if we need to. With the rest of the ramp, Mox Tantalites in because, we've got this. There's no generic mana in this until it dies, so you need to make sure you've got the 3 green and the 3 white to play this quickly. So Mox Tantalites in. Soul Talisman's in just to... Soul Ring, sorry, is in just to make sure we can cast some of the other stuff. But then I've had to go a little bit deeper. So we've gone with Arcane Signet, we've gone with Marble Diamond, Moss Diamond, and I've also put in Selesnya Signet. Turn 1 forest or basic untapped land, Soul Ring, Selesnya Signet's quite good, ready for turn 2. So that's why we've gone that. I've also included Solemn Simulacrum. Now I haven't included any real other green ramp spells. I know you're probably thinking, well, why not? Why haven't you got in things like Kadama's Reach, so on and so forth? Just not included them in this deck. We have got other ways of doing things, Smothering Tides around, because it is an enchantment deck at the end of the day. Let's just make that a little bit bigger so you can see the cards, because I just realised it's still small. So we've got ways of ramping, but I think it's worth just going through this. I need to point out the creatures as we go along. Now, the usual selection of enchantments you expect to say. There's also some that I'm starting to class as offensive enchantments. So, okay, Ajani's Welcomes to Give Us Life. Authority of Consoles is something I'd call a defensive enchantment now. It's where I think, someone's going to play creatures, we're going to have them come into play tapped. We don't want to lose to haste creatures, so Authority is quite good. Auras, Ethereal Armor, Hyena Umbra, Keen Sense, Rancor, Sixth Sense, drop out the 1-drops. I've also chucked in Generous Visitors, a few cards that turn up from Streets of Eucapena, if I remember correctly. I hope I've just said that right, because otherwise I'm going to look like a complete idiot again. Yeah, no, Neon Dynasty. There you go. Told you I'd get it wrong. They're in the deck, which I think actually help push it a little bit more. But where we've only got 19 creatures, we have got other ways of getting creatures in play, which I'll come to. But I think we need to make sure that we can get these things going. So Generous Visitors in from that point of view. Obviously Swift Hellkite isn't. All That Glitters, Gleameth Authority is... All That Glitters is a standard enchantment. Anything you're playing enchantment or a deck, you should be playing this, by the way. Gleameth Authority is one I'm trying out in this deck, just for the bolster mechanic. It is quite nice that we can bolster some of the creatures as things go along. Rune of Sustenance is in from Kaldheim, including the green version, whether it is Rune of Might. There you go, they're both in. I've also included a lot of 2-drops in here. So we've got Starfield Mystic, we've got Junkai Naturalist, and Sithis to help reduce the casting cost of the enchantments that we're playing. There was one more, but I've dropped it, which was the Griffin. No, I haven't. I've left it in there. I thought I had dropped it. No, there you have Transcendent Envoy still in as well. Just so we can make sure we get these things casting cheaper, because, you know, even with the 2-drop stuff, getting them out from 1 is a lot nicer than having 2. A couple of other things to point out here. Cameo of Transcendience. I thought this was a good include now. I think this is another one. If you're playing an enchantment-based deck, I think having a Cameo is probably a really good idea at the moment. Likewise, Sanctum Weaves in as well. Just where we have all these enchantments, it does help us get sort of like the triple colour we need for this. Hence why it's in this deck. I've also checked in Sterling Grove to try and protect all the other enchantments by giving them Shroud. It makes them a little bit harder for our opponents to remove, but if things do get removed, Elixir of Immortalities here as usual to save the day. Going at the 3-drops, Ghostly Prison to slow down the attacks it will be getting. It pairs very nicely with Sphere of Safety, as you can imagine, so they're both here to slow down the attacking. Emeria Armor, you know what this does. It gives you a +1/+1 for each card in your hand, but it doesn't matter if you've got no cards in your hand. If you just put it on here, you still get it, the exile ability, so bear that in mind. Misa Enchantress to help us restock our hands as we go along. I don't own the green versions on MTGO. They could be in here as well. I have chucked in Reclamation Sage just in case we do get hit with some annoying artifacts, so a little bit of removal is always nice. Rites of Flourishing, so we can ramp the land and draw extra cards. Yeah, okay, we don't get to use it the turn we cast it, but hopefully it'll stick around in play. And then Armadillo Cloak's in. I've put in Armadillo Cloak and I've put in Unflinching Courage. They look like the same card to all intents and purposes, but what you've got to remember with Armadillo Cloak, it doesn't say that gives the creature lifelink. It says you gain life equal to the damage dealt, and Unflinching Courage has lifelink on it. Now, apart from those 2 little subtle differences, +2/+2 and trample for the same casting cost is fine. But if you put both of these on one creature, you will be gaining double the life, because it doesn't. Armadillo Cloak does not have lifelink. It's an old card. I'm surprised it never got edited, but they decided to leave it, and that's why Unflinching Courage got printed, and we've never seen Armadillo Cloak since reprinted. But it's worth getting one. They're only common, they're not particularly hard to pick up, and it's really nice having that double lifelink if you need it at some stage. Speaking of things, if things do get removed because we haven't managed to get Sterling Grove into play and things haven't been exiled, I've chucked in Replenish. In real life, Replenish is a really expensive card. On MTGO, it's not too bad. So just bear that in mind if you're thinking of bearing this in real life. I've mentioned Smothering Tithe already. Ajani's Chosen and Archon of Sun's Grace are both here for the same reason. You cast, well, basically an aura spell. You're going to trigger Ajani's Chosen, which gives you a 2/2 cat, but any enchantment from Archon's Grace gives you 2/2 Pegasus. So they're just extra ways of generating creatures. Likewise, Halver's in here, again from Kaldheim, and it's quite nice because creatures you control are enchanted, and most of our creatures will be enchanted at some stage, then get double strike. Likewise, if you really need to, you can always flip it over and play it as a sword version. So it gives you a little bit of protection against everything that's happening. I've chucked in Mantle of the Wolf for the laugh factor. It's, you know, +4/+4, and when this goes to the graveyard, you get a couple of wolf tokens, so it's not a bad plan. Pattern of Rebirth is one of the most broken cards that was ever printed back in the day. Nowadays, from Urza's Destiny, nowadays it's probably not. I don't know. I don't play enough Legacy to know, but I've picked one up because putting this on a small little token creature and having it die and go and get one of our big the biggest creature in the deck when it dies is a quite nice way of dealing with things, hence why it's here. Renata, Call to the Hunt here. Okay, it's a legendary enchantment creature, demigod. Not that great, you know. Power equal to devotion to green, so it's always going to come down to 2/3 at a minimum. But it's got the second ability is what I really like. Each other creature you control enters the battlefield with an additional +1/+1 counter on it. This is really nice, because all the tokens we may be making off here and here come in at 3/3s instead of 2/2s if we have this in play. Hence why I've chucked it in the deck. Calyx, Destiny's Hand should be any. Again, if you're playing an enchantment deck, you should be playing it. Sorry, had to pause. Sorry about that. I had to pause. I had a call coming in. So, Calyx's Destiny's Hand, as I was saying, should be any green-white deck. It's an enchantment thing. It goes and finds your enchantments for you, and you put them into your hand. It's really nice. Now, it's also nice for the -7 if we get to it, and the -3 is also reasonably good, as well as a little bit of removal. So we'll just see what happens. I would imagine this will be a big target when we play this deck, so bear that in mind. I've also included Lenore just so we get a little bit of card draw and chuck some +1/+1 counters around, which actually kind of helps with Gleam of Authority as well. So, yeah, it's not a bad little combo, but it's not going to be something you're going to win the game with. Solemn Sims in, just so we can go and get some land and ramp it. Moving over the 5-drops, Rabble Rousing, because we will be attacking at some stage, and having some more creatures is always useful. Yeah, okay, it probably gets disenchanted, you lose the card you've hidden away in exile, but it's worth the risk to do that. Sphere of Safety I've mentioned. AO's in because we've got a lot of cards that are under 4 or more, so when it dies we can look at the from the battlefield and put the rest in the library, so why not get 7 cards? We'll probably be hitting a few things we can get into play, hence why it's here. I've included Cataclysm Gearhulk just for a bit of a change round, and I'll come to why in a minute. It's a quite nice way of doing things. You keep all your lands, but you get to clear the board basically, apart from what, potentially 1, 2, 3, 4 permanents maybe. So it's just a different way. But we have got a proper Wrath effect in. We've got Cleansing Nova. I've also got a Steer Command over here. I've chucked in Elspeth Conquers Death just so we can kill something and then get back anything that has gone to the graveyard if we haven't found our lovely Elixir of Immortality, especially our creatures or one of our 2 Planeswalkers in the deck, or 3 Planeswalkers. Signal of the Empty Throne, I expect you're all expecting it by now. 5 mana, when you cast an enchantment you get 4/4 Angel. No brainer in this deck. I've also included Jani, Mentor of Heroes. Looking at the top 4 cards and finding an aura creature or planeswalker really helps. You're probably not going to get to the -8 to get 100 life, but if you do, fair play to you. But having the ability to go and dig through your library and find the enchantments you might need, the auras, or worst case scenario, stick some +1/+1 counters around. It's not the worst plan in the world either. Mirari's Wake's here just so we can speed up the mana development. That's all that's here for. Austere Command I mentioned. The 3rd Planeswalker is Elspeth Sun's Champion. Mainly for the +1 ability and the -3. Get the -7 off, it's great. But this is probably going to be our other version of Wrath, so we can get rid of any creatures with power 4 or more. Ancient Gold Dragons in. This is one of the creatures I was talking about that we want to go and get with Pattern of Rebirth. Actually, this is the only creature I was talking about that we want to go and get with Pattern of Rebirth. If we can get it in, and I've chucked in Swiftfoot Boots, so if we can get this into play and get in an attack and haste it, just getting those whole load of sort of like 1/1 blue fairy dragon tokens will probably save us a lot of pain and a lot of grief over the course of the game. Colossification's in because why not? It's +20/+20, and you get to, okay, you have to tap the creature when it comes in, but +20/+20 is really difficult for your opponent to deal with. It's probably going to be the biggest creature on the board. The last 2 cards are purely in to reset our board if we need so. So Brilliant Restoration and Triumph of Reckoning, they could all come in. They return all the enchantments and artifacts that may have died, and in Triumph of Reckoning's place it returns any planeswalkers that have died as well. That's not probably that likely in this deck, but the enchantments coming back in the artifacts is quite nice. So that's it. That's a slightly different take, I'm hoping, on Krond the Dawn-Clad. I don't actually ever remember playing this deck at all back in Planechase when it first came out back in 2012, sorry. So that's why I've built the deck around it today. I hope you've enjoyed it. It's something a little bit different, and I'll be back soon with some more deck takes. But please be aware, if you haven't seen it already, you need to make sure you've updated your MTGO clients, everybody. By the time this video goes out, no, on the day this video goes out, I do believe we're having to uninstall MTGO and wait for the new client to go live. So bear that in mind. If you want to play any of these on MTGO, you're going to have to wait for it to come up. And apparently it's going to be down for 8 to 10 hours. So yeah, that's why I'm recording these ahead now. So thanks for watching this. Take care. Give me a follow. Let me know. Like the video. Tell me what changes I've missed out, what I should make. Come and give me a follow over on Twitch as well. All the details are below as normal. Have a look. I hope to see you soon, and thanks for watching. Take care. Laters.